So in this experiment, we're going to talk about density. So here we have just a normal bowl full of water. The water is dyed green for later in the experiment, and we have a hard-boiled egg. So what we're going to show you is that in normal water, if you were to drop an egg into the bowl, the egg will sink. And next, you're going to obtain another container and fill it with really concentrated salt water. So you can get this water extremely concentrated. You're going to want to pour in a whole lot of salt, so much that you're stirring it until salt has gathered on the bottom, so the solution is entirely saturated with salt. So you can either use your normal table salt, or you can get Instant Ocean from anywhere that sells fish products. So at this point, you want to ask your class to make a prediction about what will happen if we put the egg into salt water, which is much more dense than normal water. And as we can see, when we put the egg into the salt water, it actually floats. Okay, so the next part of the experiment, we're just going to add some fresh water to further highlight the fact that the salt water is a lot more dense than the fresh water. This would be why we dyed it green, was so you can tell the difference between the salt water and the fresh water. So you want to go ahead and add that in there, and you want to try and add it in small quantities, maybe along the side of the container, so that the fresh water and salt water don't mix a whole lot. Now that we have our half freshwater, half saltwater solution, we're going to go ahead and drop in the egg. At this point, you want to ask your class to make another hypothesis about what will happen now that we have freshwater in the top half of the container and saltwater on the bottom half. And again, the reason the freshwater is on top is because it's less dense than the saltwater. So here we go, dropping in the egg. Okay, and as you can see, the egg has sunk through the freshwater layer, but is floating on top of the saltwater layer beneath it. Now we're going to repeat the experiment using freshwater that is not dyed, so that is just clear, just to show, make it more mysterious for students. So here we go. And the egg is still floating on top of the more dense saltwater layer at the bottom of the beaker.